At the grown age of 29, I thought I'd have everything figured out by now, but instead, I find that I'm reflecting on all the times that I self sabotaged and ignored my intuition, and how doing that got me the results I have in my life thus far. It was a significant realization for myself that the common denominator in everything in my life, my finances, my career, my relationships, was in fact me. If you asked 10-year-old Sam what her life would be like at 29, I guarantee you her answer would be nothing like the reality I'm living right now. And trust me, I am so blessed and grateful and privileged in my life. But had I recognized my own self sabotaging habits sooner, I would be in a completely different place. To any girls watching this who are past their 20s, just know it's never too late to reinvent yourself and change your life. And any girls watching this who are just starting their 20s or younger, make sure as you begin to navigate your adulthood that you're making choices that align with your most authentic self. That way, you can create a life that you love from the beginning, even if what that looks like changes over time, because it probably will. I had to completely change my mindset from being a victim to my circumstances and a victim to the way the world operates, and take full accountability for my own decisions and my own role that I played in my circumstances. Placing the blame externally is so easy to do. We always blame our significant other for the way that they're treating us. We blame the economy and the job market for our finances and our opportunities. And external factors absolutely do play a huge role in our lives. There are so many things that occur that are out of our control, but we tend to focus on those things only instead of really digging into the role that we played in the situations that we don't want to be in. With that being said, I'm going to share with you a couple ways that I used to sabotage myself in hopes that it'll help you identify patterns in your own life that are worth taking a second glance at or maybe changing entirely. I'm going to start with the most obvious topic, and the topic I think most women universally struggle with, and that is men. Looking back, I had no idea how male centered I actually was and how that was shaping all of my decisions and my priorities. This one I was able to reflect back to its origin, which was my mom. Sorry, mom, love you, but my mom is a very, very male centered woman. My mom is just the type of woman who wants to be a homemaker. Her biggest priority and goals in life was to become a wife and to be a mom and to be a caretaker of the home. And don't get me wrong, there is absolutely nothing wrong with prioritizing family and connection. It's just my mom was my first female influential role model. Of course, she's my mother. And the way she operated and what she wanted out of her life was just very different from what I wanted out of mine. But I didn't realize the conditioning that I had from her, that she always told me to look good for a man. She's always constantly scouting dating prospects for me. And now, as I'm 30, she is begging me for a grandchild. And the problem with that, like I said, was that what we wanted out of both of our lives was not the same. I was always very career and money motivated, and I knew that from a young age. So when I got to this point and I did this deep self reflection, I'm just like, why the fuck am I giving away my life in these relationships and losing my identity in them? But that's not really what I want in the first place. I've also settled in every single relationship I've ever been in. And let me preface by saying that is not a dig to any of my exes. It is strictly coming from a lens of compatibility. Even though there were times I was done wrong, I have to reflect on the relationship and the part that I played that allowed it to get to that point in the first place. And I wasn't always the perfect girlfriend either, just to be fair. But whenever I caught feelings for someone, I always put their wants and needs above my own, to the point where I let hurtful behavior slide. I dated men who were super lustful. I knew it and I always called it out, but I allowed myself to be gaslit about it. Except for one ex who gave it to me straight. We were arguing one time and he was like, I'm a man, I'm gonna look. And I stayed with him after that. How embarrassing for me. I'm sure you watching and me myself have been through worse things in a relationship, but that is just a very clear example of a man crossing your boundaries. Don't ever let a man cross your boundaries like that and get away with it. Lustful behavior like that is a big deal. Do not let them convince you it's not. And if you ignore it and you ignore your intuition, it is going to haunt you the entire relationship. And I guarantee you, the red flags you have about the relationship in the beginning are going to be the reasons why you wind up breaking up later. I even ignored the small things that I should have known instantly made me and this person incompatible. I'll use the same ex as an example. He lived in a small farm town. He worked like 30 hours a week for his dad. They had a little family business, and there was really no goals or ambitions in his life aside from the time where they had to have a conversation about taking over the family business. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with wanting to live that lifestyle of out in the countryside or not packing your schedule with things to do if you just enjoy your leisure time. And he had hobbies. He had a lot of hobbies. He was a overall well-rounded person. It just was not compatible with what I wanted for myself. So knowing this about myself, why the fuck was I entertaining someone who was living the exact opposite lifestyle of the lifestyle that I wanted to live? I was repeatedly setting myself up for failure, and I did this time and time again in different ways, not necessarily lifestyle with one person, but maybe love language the next. Bottom line, I self sabotaged by allowing myself to be insulted, disrespected, belittled, and betrayed by multiple people, all in the name of making a relationship work. I was outsourcing my need for love and validation while I was in these relationships, and I placed my self worth in the hands of somebody else. Not only did I not even realize I was repeating this pattern, I realized that I was using relationships to procrastinate and distract myself from the work that I needed to do to achieve my own goals and invest in my own life. And that brings me to the next time I realized that I was the problem is looking back at how I invested my time into my career. I did the textbook thing you're supposed to do. I went and got a college education and I established a finance career. I didn't, for lack of a better term, mess up in the career department, but even as a young girl, I knew I wanted to do so much more than a 9 to 5 with my life. I always wanted to start a business, but every time I would run into a roadblock in my plans, I would put it down and I would distract myself with something else. I was always terrified of putting myself out there on social media. I was terrified of the way I'd be perceived. I'd be terrified of saying the wrong thing and receiving backlash and receiving negativity. So instead of pushing forward and pushing myself out of my comfort zone, I just stayed in my little comfortable employee box. And looking back, most of my 20s were spent during the 2016 Instagram perfection era where plastic surgery was new. All the girls were getting lip filler. Everybody was face tuning and photoshopping their pictures like crazy. So it was even more intimidating then to get behind a camera than it is now. That was still an excuse, but luckily today we are in a time where people are craving authenticity. So it is so much easier to get behind a camera and be vulnerable than it was 5, 10 years ago. Needless to say, based on the existence of this page and other things behind the scenes, I no longer operate from that place of fear and uncertainty. But I wish I had these realizations about myself so much sooner. Now that you know and maybe can relate to the harmful ways that I operated in the past, I'm going to share how I actually changed those patterns. Recognizing my destructive patterns is obviously the first step I took to change them, and that recognition happened in a few different ways. It happened through some serious analyzing of the results I was getting in my life. It happened through my age. Turning 29 forced me to become brutally honest with the trajectory of my life and where I'm headed if I continue on the path that I'm on. It happened through relationships and breakups that are incredible mirrors to such important things like how much you love yourself, but only if you're brutally honest with yourself. It also came from life and spiritual coaching and taking the advice of people wiser than me with my own discernment. So, present day Sam is currently putting these realizations into action to get new results because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And how I'm doing that is no longer outsourcing my intuition. I and a lot of us already know most of the answers to the questions that we have. We just have to look inward. I stopped running every little decision I want to make by other people because by doing that, I'm diluting my own intuition and decision making power with the thoughts and opinions of others. Making decisions that I already subconsciously know the answer to has really helped me build trust with myself. And what better way to create a life that's authentic to you by following your own intuition? I got extremely serious about my life and I'm now living consciously. Every day now is planned with something that I'm going to accomplish. And now I have so much going on that I kind of have no choice but to time block. But the point is that I no longer operate on autopilot and everything I do is intentional because whether you're intentional about it or not, you are still creating your life tomorrow. I fully understand that everything that's happened in my life and is happening in my life is a direct result of my thoughts, feelings, and actions. And in order to get what I want, those three things have to match up with what it is that I want. It may sound corny because it's so mainstream now, but I do have a journal that I write in several times a week. Being aware of the thoughts and beliefs you have around yourself and what's possible in your life will literally determine your outcomes. Writing them down on paper consistently paints you a clear picture every week of your thoughts and beliefs, and you can adjust them accordingly. This one is really important. I started thinking about my ideal self and what she would do and who she would be, and I started taking action aligned with that vision. The best version of me probably isn't procrastinating on my career goals and losing my identity in a relationship. So I went back to school for my master's degree because the best version of myself is highly educated and proud of that. I got a new wardrobe and do my makeup for work every single day because the best version of me always looks and feels good and feels confident. I keep my home and my car clean and smelling good because my ideal self operates and lives in a clean and clear environment. And lastly, I was honest with myself about so many things, but especially what I wanted out of a relationship and if I even wanted one at this point or if I was ready for one. But when that time comes, I have a very strict set of criteria that I will not be deviating from just for the sake of someone else's affection and approval. I'm not filming this as someone who is currently in her perfect dream life, but I can tell you I am absolutely in the process of creating it. I'm coming to you not as someone whose life became perfect overnight with one aha moment, but as someone who has gone through deep, intense internal transformation that has caused the foundation of my entire life to change in the best way. It is never too late for you to change the circumstances in your life that you don't prefer to experience. You can transform your life at any time, but you have to be willing to accept that at the root of your discomfort, when you strip away all the excuses, you might be the problem too. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you were able to take something away from this and apply it to your own life. I hope it resonated and you can relate. We're all going through the same struggles in some capacity. Just really think about who you are and who you want to be, and you can't go wrong.